The alarm bells rang through the Galactic Council chamber. Red lights flashed across holographic displays showing a massive dark void expanding through space. Council members from 40 different worlds watched in silence as another star system disappeared into the blackness. "The void rift has consumed the Helios sector," announced Supreme Chancellor Vrix, his 3 eyes dim with worry. "That makes 12 systems lost this year alone." Commander Quan stood at the back of the chamber, his dark eyes studying the display. He wore the simple gray uniform of the human exploration fleet. Next to him, Dr. Hana tapped notes on her datapad, her mind already working on calculations. 12 systems, Quan muttered. "How many people?" 40 billion souls, Hana answered quietly. "Maybe more. The evacuation ships couldn't save everyone." The council chamber erupted in debate. Some members wanted to evacuate more systems. Others suggested building massive barriers. A few recommended prayer and acceptance. Quan noticed that nobody suggested actually solving the problem. Ambassador Thelmore, a tall being covered in silver scales, approached the human delegation. His species had been exploring space for 5,000 years. They had seen empires rise and fall. "Commander Quan," Thelmore said, his voice carrying the weight of centuries. "I know why you are here. You want to study the rift." "That's right," Quan replied. Thelmore's scales rippled, which Quan had learned meant sadness. 47 civilizations have tried. The Krellians sent their best scientists. The void consumed them. The Mechanical Collective sent 10,000 probes. None returned. The Psionic Assembly tried to understand it with their minds. 3 of their greatest thinkers went mad. "So everyone gave up," Quan said. "We accepted reality," Thelmore corrected. "Some things cannot be solved. Some forces are too powerful. The rift is beyond understanding. It breaks every law of physics we know. Ships that go near it are torn apart. The gravity wells shift every second. Radiation levels spike randomly. Time itself flows differently near the edge." Dr. Hana looked up from her pad. "But has anyone mapped these changes? Collected real-time data from inside the affected zones?" Thelmore's scale shifted to a dark blue, indicating confusion. "Why would we? The data would be meaningless. The rift is chaos." "Maybe," Hana said. "Or maybe it just looks like chaos because nobody has looked at it the right way." The council session ended with a decision to evacuate 6 more sectors. No mention of stopping the rift. No plans to fight back. Just retreat and survival. As they left the chamber, Quan activated his communicator. "Chief Engineer Sung, prep the Dauntless. We're going to the rift." "Yes, sir," came the reply. "When do we leave?" Now. The Dauntless was not an impressive ship by galactic standards. It was smaller than most council vessels. Its weapons were basic, its shields were outdated. But it had something most alien ships didn't have. It was designed by humans who believed problems existed to be solved. Sung met them in the cargo bay. He was a stocky man with grease on his hands and a permanent smile. "I've been reading the council reports on the rift. They're pretty depressing." "That's why we're going," Quan said. "I figured." Sung pulled up a hologram of the rift. "I've been thinking about their approach. They sent their best technology, top-of-the-line sensors, quantum computers, everything elegant and perfect. And it all failed," Hana added. "Right. So maybe we try something different, something messy, something human." Lieutenant Yuna entered the bay, carrying equipment cases. She was their communications officer and had a talent for keeping signals alive in impossible conditions. "I brought the backup transmitters. If we're going somewhere everyone else died, I want redundancy." "Good thinking," Quan approved. The crew gathered in the briefing room. Besides Quan, Hana, Sung, and Yuna, there were 12 others. Pilot Tae, who could fly through asteroid storms with his eyes closed. Navigator Mira, who saw patterns in space that others missed. Medical Officer Inho, ready for anything. Security Chief Dabin, quiet but deadly. And 8 engineers and scientists who all volunteered knowing the risks. "Everyone knows what we're doing," Quan addressed them. The council thinks the void rift can't be stopped. They've given up. We haven't. We're going to the edge, and we're going to figure out what this thing is. And if we can't, asked Tay, then we'll be the first ones to fail trying everything, Quan said. The council quit after their perfect plans didn't work. We're not going to quit until we've tried every messy, stupid, crazy idea we can think of. The crew laughed. It was very human. They weren't smarter than the council species, they didn't have better technology. But they had something else. They had stubbornness. The Dauntless launched from council space 3 hours later. As they approached the jump point, Una received a priority message from Ambassador Thelmore. He says we're making a mistake, Una reported. He sent data files from all 47 previous attempts. He says he hopes we prove him wrong, but he's certain we won't. Thank him for the files, Quan ordered. We'll study them on the way. The ship jumped into hyperspace. Through the windows, stars stretched into lines of light. Dr. Hana was already deep in the council data, her eyes scanning thousands of pages of reports. They all made the same assumptions, she said after an hour. They all assumed the rift was a natural phenomenon. They tried to understand it like they would understand a black hole or a pulsar. But, Sung prompted, but what if it's not natural? What if it's something else, something created or triggered? Does that change anything? It changes everything. Natural phenomena follow rules. They're predictable once you understand them. But created phenomena? Those follow the rules of whoever made them. Quan leaned back in his chair. So we're not just studying physics, we're studying intent. Maybe. The Dauntless traveled for 3 days. As they got closer to the rift, they started seeing signs of destruction. Abandoned stations, dead satellites, ships that had been torn in half, their crews lost to space. Navigator Mira tracked their approach carefully. We're entering the warning zone. Council protocols say this is as close as anyone should get. Keep going, Quan ordered. Through the main viewport, they saw it. The void rift looked like someone had torn a hole in space itself. It was darkness absolute. Not the darkness of space, which was filled with distant stars. This was the absence of everything. Light went in and didn't come out. Sensors are going crazy, Hana reported. I'm reading gravity fluctuations that shouldn't be possible. Radiation across spectrums we don't have names for. And the edge is moving. Moving how? Growing, shrinking, pulsing, all at once, like it's breathing. An alarm sounded. A council patrol ship was hailing them. Human vessel, came the transmission. You are in extreme danger. Evacuate immediately. This is your only warning. Quan opened the channel. Warning received and ignored. We have work to do. You're going to die. Probably. But we're going to learn something first. The council ship turned and fled. The Dauntless moved forward, alone, toward the impossible darkness that had defeated every civilization in the galaxy. Quan looked at his crew. They were scared. He could see it in their eyes. But none of them suggested turning back. All stations, battle stations, he ordered. Dr. Hana, start your scans. Sung, keep us in one piece. Una, maintain constant contact with Earth. Whatever happens, the data gets home. Yes, sir. The Dauntless crossed into the danger zone and the impossible work began. The Dauntless shook violently as it held position near the rift's edge. Alarms rang constantly. The gravity stabilizers worked overtime to keep the crew from being thrown around the ship. Dr. Hana stared at her screens, watching data flow faster than she could read it. Her instruments were picking up readings that made no sense. Gravity pulled in 6 directions at once. Time moved faster on the left side of the ship than the right. Particles appeared and disappeared randomly. This is incredible, she whispered. Incredibly dangerous, Sung corrected from engineering. Hull integrity at 70% and dropping. Whatever is coming off that thing is eating through our shields. Quan gripped his command chair. How long can we hold? 6 hours. Maybe 8 if I reroute power from life support. Don't do that yet.
Hana, what are you seeing?
Hana's fingers flew across her console. The council was wrong. This isn't random. There's a pattern here. It's hidden under so much noise that their computers couldn't find it. Can our computers find it? No. Our computers are less advanced than theirs. If their quantum processors couldn't handle it, ours definitely can't. Pilot Tay kept the ship steady despite the turbulence. So we came all this way to confirm it's impossible? I didn't say that, Hana replied. She pulled up a three-dimensional model of the rift. Look at this. The council tried to calculate everything at once. They wanted a complete picture of the entire rift in one simulation. That's why their computers crashed. The math is too complex. Navigator Mira studied the model. What if we don't calculate everything at once? What if we break it into smaller pieces? That would take thousands of calculations. Millions, maybe. So, we have time. Hana shook her head. We have 8 hours. Even if I worked non-stop, I couldn't do 1,000,000 calculations. But Earth could, Lieutenant Yuna said suddenly. Earth and every human ship in space. Everyone turned to look at her. Think about it, Yuna continued. We have 800 ships in deep space right now. Mining vessels, colony transports, research stations. If we linked them all together, used their computers as one giant network. Distributed computing, Sung said, his eyes lighting up. Like the old SETI project on Earth. Everyone contributes a little processing power. Hana was already running calculations. It could work. If we divide the problem into small enough pieces and spread them across enough computers. Yes. Yes, this could actually work. The council will think we're insane, Quan said. The council already thinks we're insane, Yuna pointed out. We're the ones sitting next to the death void. Fair point. Yuna, send the request to Earth, emergency priority. We need every ship and every computer. Yuna opened a channel to human space. The message traveled through hyperspace relay stations, reaching Earth in minutes. She explained what they needed and why. The response came back faster than expected. Earth Command agrees, Yuna reported. They're contacting every human vessel. Colonial Governor Jay on New Sol is redirecting his entire orbital network. The Mining Guild is shutting down operations to donate their computers. Even civilian ships are volunteering. How long to set up the network? 48 hours. Quan looked at Sung. Can we hold position for 48 hours? Sung checked his readings. If I shut down everything except essential systems, maybe. It'll be cold and dark, but we'll survive. Do it. Everyone, minimal power. We wait. The next 2 days were tense. The crew wore thermal suits as the ship's heat faded. They ate cold rations and slept in shifts. Outside, the void rift pulsed and writhed like a living thing. Hana worked constantly, preparing the calculations. She broke the problem of the rift into 700 million individual equations. Each one was small enough for a basic computer to handle. On Earth, a young researcher named Jin coordinated the network. He had never been to space, but he was the best at distributed systems. 800 ships, 12 colony computers, and 5,000 civilian terminals all linked together under his command. Network is active, Yuna announced. All systems synchronized. Dr. Hana, you're connected. Hana took a deep breath and uploaded her equations. Across human space, computers began working. Each one solved a tiny piece of the puzzle. Mining ship computers calculated gravitational flows. Colony networks modeled radiation patterns. Research stations handled quantum fluctuations. The data started coming back. Slowly at first, then faster. Hana's screens filled with answers. I'm seeing it, she said, her voice filled with wonder. I'm actually seeing the pattern. The crew gathered around her station. On the display, the chaos of the rift began to make sense. Lines of force appeared. Energy flows became visible. The randomness resolved into structure. It's a dimensional collapse, Hana explained. Reality itself is breaking down. Space and time are folding into each other. That's why normal physics don't work near it. The rules are literally changing. Can we stop it? Quan asked. Hana zoomed in on the center of the rift. There, that's the focal point. The place where the collapse started. If we could stabilize that point, the whole rift would stop growing. Eventually, it might even close. How do we stabilize it? We'd need to deploy a device at the exact center. Something that could anchor reality itself. Create a quantum framework that space-time could rebuild around. Do we have anything like that? No, nobody does. The technology doesn't exist. Sung leaned over her shoulder. But we know what it needs to do. We have the math now. Could we build it? Hana pulled up design specifications. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as she sketched out concepts. Maybe it would be crude. Definitely not elegant, but humans are good at crude. How long to build it? If we had a full lab in a year, I could do it. Here, with what we have on the ship? Impossible. There was that word again. Impossible. Quan smiled.
Hana, what do you need?
Quantum processors, exotic matter, a zero-point energy generator, and about 50 components we don't have. Sung, can you improvise any of that? The engineer scratched his head. The quantum processor from our nav computer could work. We'd have to fly blind, but we could do it. Exotic matter. There's a collapsed star about 20 light years from here. Might have what we need. Zero-point energy. He paused. That's harder. But I have an idea. A really stupid idea. Those are the best kind. What is it? Our reactor runs on controlled fusion. What if we made it run uncontrolled? Just for a second. Channel all that energy into the quantum device. That would destroy the ship, Hana said. Only if we were still on it. Everyone was quiet. Quan understood. You're talking about turning the Dauntless into a bomb. A very precise, very scientific bomb. More like a quantum anchor delivery system, Sung said. We build the device, fly it into the rift's center, deploy it, and get out before the reactor blows. Survival probability? Hana ran the numbers. 0.003%. Basically zero. Tay spoke up from the pilot station. So we're definitely doing this, right? Several crew members laughed. It was the kind of laugh that came when faced with certain death. The kind that said they were scared but committed. Quan stood up. All right. We have a plan. Hana designed the device. Sung, start building. Tay, Mira, plot a course into the rift. Yuna, send everything back to Earth, every equation, every design, every bit of data. If we fail, someone else can learn from our mistakes. And if we succeed, asked Dabin, then we save 47 billion people and show the galaxy that humans don't quit. The crew got to work. Hana and Jin collaborated across light years, perfecting the quantum anchor design. Sung tore apart half the ship, cannibalizing systems to build something that had never existed before. Ambassador Thelmore contacted them on the third day. We've been monitoring your network traffic, he said. We see what you're attempting. Commander Quan, this is beyond reckless. You're going to get your crew killed. Probably, Quan agreed. But we're going to try anyway. Why? Why throw away your lives for a chance that barely exists? Quan thought about it. Because someone has to. And because if we don't try, we'll never know if we could have made a difference. Thelmore was silent for a long moment. I don't understand your species. I know. That's what makes us useful. The quantum anchor was completed 5 days later. It looked like a metal sphere covered in crystals and wires. It wasn't pretty, but according to Hana's calculations, it would work. Maybe. Ready? Quan asked his crew. They all nodded. Then let's do something impossible. The Dauntless no longer looked like a ship. Half its hull panels were gone. Entire decks were exposed to space. Sung had stripped everything that wasn't essential, using the materials to reinforce the remaining structure and build the quantum anchor. We're basically a flying skeleton, Sung reported. But the anchor is secure in the cargo bay and I've rigged the reactor for the overload sequence. Quan walked through the ship one last time. His crew had gathered their personal items into a single storage container. Photos of families, letters from home, small trinkets that meant something. If they didn't make it back, at least these would survive in the escape pod. Dr. Hana checked the anchor one more time. The device hummed with barely contained energy. Crystals glowed blue and green. All readings are stable. As stable as something this experimental can be. Will it work? Asked Medical Officer Inho. The math says yes. Reality might say no. We'll find out. The crew assembled on the bridge. 15 people in survival suits ready for the worst. Pilot Tay sat at the helm, his hands steady on the controls. Navigator Mira had her route calculated down to the millisecond. One wrong turn inside the rift would tear them apart. Lieutenant Yuna activated the communications array. All channels open. Earth is receiving our feed. Whatever happens, the data will survive. Good, Quan said. He opened a ship-wide channel. Everyone knows the plan. We go in fast, deploy the anchor at the center, and get out faster. Tay, you're the best pilot humanity has. I trust you. Mira, your navigation got us through the Corin Nebula when everyone said it was impossible. I trust you too. Sung, you built something from nothing. Hana, you did math that broke the Council's computers. All of you. You're the best crew in the fleet. He paused. We're about to do something that 47 civilizations couldn't do. We're scared. That's okay. Fear means we understand the danger. But we're going anyway because that's what humans do. We see the impossible and we try. Security Chief Dabin spoke up. If we die, at least we'll die doing something incredible. If we die, Quan corrected, we'll die buying time for the next crew to succeed. But I'd rather not die at all. Everyone ready? Ready, they answered together. Tay, take us in. The Dauntless turned toward the void rift. The darkness seemed to grow larger as they approached. Through the windows they could see space bending around the edges. Stars stretched and twisted like reflections in broken glass. Entering the outer boundary, Mira announced. Gravity fluctuations increasing, the ship began to shake. Not the normal vibration of engines, but a deep, wrong shaking that came from reality itself breaking down. Panels rattled. Lights flickered. Compensating, Tay said through gritted teeth. His hands moved constantly, making tiny adjustments to keep them on course. Every second, the gravitational forces changed direction. Up became down, left became right. He flew by instinct and calculation combined. First gravity well approaching, Mira called out. 3 seconds, 2, 1, now. Tay rolled the ship hard. They felt the pull of immense gravity, then they were past it. But another one appeared immediately after. This is going to be rough, Tay warned. He was right. The Dauntless dove and climbed, rolled and spun, threading through gravitational corridors that shifted every moment. One mistake would crush them or rip them apart. Hana watched her sensors. We're penetrating deeper than any council ship ever got. The data we're gathering is unprecedented. Wonderful, Sung said, holding onto his console as the ship lurched. I'll write a paper about it if we survive. A warning alarm blared. Hull breach in Section 7, reported Engineer Nari. Sealing it off. Lost port shield generator, called Engineer Bora. Switching to backups. The Dauntless was being slowly torn apart, just like all the ships before them. But Tay kept flying, Mira kept navigating, and Sung kept rerouting power to where it was needed most. Time dilation increasing, Hana announced. For every minute we experience, 10 minutes pass outside. Quan understood what that meant. If they spent an hour inside the rift, the rest of the galaxy would age 10 hours. Time was literally moving at different speeds. Through the windows, they saw impossible things. Stars being born and dying in seconds. Planets forming from dust, then crumbling away. Parallel realities flickering at the edges of perception, showing different versions of the universe. I'm seeing Earth, Yuna said, her voice shaking. But it's wrong. The continents are different. Is that another timeline? Don't look too long, Quan advised. Keep your eyes on your stations. Another gravity well, Mira shouted. This one's massive. Tay pulled hard on the controls. The ship groaned as it changed direction. They felt the acceleration press them into their seats. For a moment they were weightless. Then gravity returned, but from the ceiling instead of the floor. Stabilizers failing, Sung reported. We're losing attitude control. How far to the center? Quan asked. 200,000 kilometers, Mira answered. Might as well be 2 light years in these conditions. Something hit the ship. Not debris, but a wave of pure force. Energy that shouldn't exist, traveling in ways that defied physics. The lights went out. Emergency power kicked in a second later, bathing everything in red. That took out main power, Sung said. We're on batteries now. 30 minutes of life support. Can we make it to the center in 30 minutes? Quan asked. If nothing else goes wrong, Tay said. Which it definitely will. They pushed forward. The Dauntless was barely a ship anymore. More like a coffin flying through hell. But still they continued. The center, Hana said suddenly. I can see it on sensors. There's something there. A point where space and time are completely collapsed. Everything is trying to flow into it. Like a drain, Mira said, exactly like a drain. And we're heading straight for it. The rift's center appeared on the view screen. It was smaller than expected. A point of absolute darkness surrounded by swirling energy and broken light. Everything in the universe seemed to be pulled toward it. Deploy position in 90 seconds, Tay announced. Sung moved to the cargo bay controls. Anchor ready. The release mechanism is manual. If the computers fail, I can push it out myself. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, Quan said. 60 seconds. The ship shook harder. Another hull breach. Then another. Sections of the Dauntless peeled away, lost to the rift. We're losing structural integrity, Nari reported. The ship can't take much more. 30 seconds. Hold together, baby. Just a little longer. Quan gripped his chair. Around him, his crew held on. They had come so far. Through the impossible, through the deadly. They were so close. 10 seconds. Time seemed to slow down. Quan could see every detail. The sweat on Tay's face. the determination in Hana's eyes. The fear and courage mixed together on every crew member's face. Deploy position. Now, Sung, hit the release. The quantum anchor shot out from the cargo bay, propelled by magnetic launchers. It flew toward the center point, trailing light and energy. For a moment, nothing happened. The anchor reached the center and stopped. Floating in the absolute darkness, the device activated, its crystals blazing with light. Still nothing happened. It's not working, Hana said, her voice breaking. The calculations. They were wrong. Quan felt his heart sink. They had come so far, risked everything, and they had failed. Get us out, he ordered. At least the data will help the next crew. But Sung wasn't listening. He was staring at his engineering console, his mind racing. The data they had gathered inside the rift, the real-time readings, they showed something the calculations from outside couldn't account for. The physics here weren't just different. They were wrong in a specific, measurable way. Wait, Sung said. He pulled up the anchor's controls. I can recalibrate it. Adjust for the local physics. We don't have time, Quan said. The ship is coming apart. Then I better work fast. Sung's fingers flew across the console. He was doing calculations in his head, adjusting the anchor's quantum field on the fly, inventing new physics equations in the middle of a collapsing reality. It was insane. It was impossible. It was very human. Recalibration complete, Sung said. Activating now. The anchor's light changed from blue to white. The crystals vibrated at a new frequency, and slowly, impossibly, the rift began to respond. The darkness started to shrink. It's working, Hana shouted. The dimensional collapse is reversing. The rift shuddered. Energy exploded outward, then pulled back inward. Space and time began knitting themselves back together. Time to leave, Quan ordered. Tay, get us out of here now! The pilot needed no encouragement. He spun the ship around and pushed the engines to maximum. The Dauntless, barely held together, began its escape from the rift. Behind them, the impossible darkness started to collapse, but they weren't clear yet. The rift was fighting back and the Dauntless was dying. Come on, Tay whispered to his ship. Just a little further. You can make it. They all held their breath as they raced toward the light. The Dauntless broke free of the rift's gravity at the last possible moment. Emergency thrusters fired, pushing them away from the collapsing darkness. Behind them, the void rift shuddered and pulsed as the quantum anchor did its work. Clear of the danger zone, Navigator Mira announced, her voice shaking with relief and exhaustion. Pilot Tay slumped in his chair. His hands were trembling. He had been flying at maximum concentration for 3 hours, making split-second decisions that meant life or death. I need to never do that again. Quan stood on unsteady legs and looked around the bridge. Alarms were ringing. Smoke filled the air. 3 console stations were completely destroyed. But his crew was alive. Damage report, he ordered. Engineer Nari checked her systems. Sir, we've lost 60% of the hull. Life support is failing. We have no weapons, no shields, and barely any engines. Main reactor is offline. We're running on battery power only. Survivors? All bridge crew accounted for, Medical Officer Inho reported. But we lost 3 people in Engineering Section 4 when it depressurized. Park Chen and Rodriguez. They were sealing a hull breach when the section gave way. The bridge went silent. Everyone had known the risks, but knowing people had actually died made it real. 3 crew members who would never see Earth again. 3 families who would receive the hardest news. Mark their positions, Quan said quietly. We'll come back for them when we can. They died heroes. Dr. Hana was staring at her sensor display, tears running down her face, but she was smiling. The rift is collapsing, not quickly but steadily. The anchor is working. Within a month, maybe 2, the rift will be completely closed. We did it, Lieutenant Yuna whispered. We actually did it. Send the data to Earth, Quan ordered. Everything. Send it now in case we don't make it back. Yuna worked her damaged console, transmitting their findings across space. The quantum anchor designs, the navigation data from inside the rift, the physics equations that Sung had created on the fly, all of it went to Earth and to the human research stations. Message sent and confirmed received, Yuna reported. Earth command is, they're celebrating. The whole planet is celebrating. A priority channel opened. It was Ambassador Thelmore, his silver scales showing colors that Quan had never seen before. Wonder, maybe. Or shock, Commander Quan, Thelmore said slowly. Our sensors confirm what we're seeing. The void rift is collapsing. You succeeded where 47 civilizations failed. We did, Quan confirmed. But it cost us 3 good people and nearly cost us more. How? Thelmore asked. How did you do what we couldn't? Chief Engineer Sung answered before Quan could. We cheated. We didn't try to do things the right way or the elegant way. We did them the way that worked. We broke our own ship apart to build the anchor. We used a network of 800 computers when one perfect computer wasn't enough, and when the calculations were wrong, I fixed them on the spot using data we gathered by nearly dying. That's insane, Thelmore said. Yes, Sung agreed, but it worked. We're sending rescue ships, Thelmore continued. You're in no condition to travel. Stay where you are. Help is coming. Thank you, Quan said. The channel closed. The crew began emergency repairs, trying to keep their broken ship alive long enough for rescue. Sung and his engineers worked miracles with damaged systems. Inho treated injuries. Everyone did their part. 6 hours later, a fleet of council ships arrived. Sleek alien vessels surrounded the wreck of the Dauntless. Transport ships began moving the human crew to safety. Medical teams took the injured. Engineers marveled at the quantum anchor's crude but effective design. The council had prepared a station nearby for the humans. When Quan and his crew arrived, they found themselves treated like returning heroes. Aliens from dozens of species wanted to understand what humanity had done. Dr. Hana spent 2 days in meetings, explaining the math. She showed how distributed computing had solved a problem that centralized quantum computers couldn't handle. She explained how breaking the impossible into millions of small possible problems made all the difference. But your calculations from outside the rift were wrong, noted a Krellian scientist. The anchor should have failed. It did fail, Hana admitted, until Engineer Sung recalibrated it based on local conditions. He essentially rewrote the physics while inside the rift. That's impossible. No one can calculate that fast. Sung didn't calculate it perfectly. He estimated. He guessed. He used intuition and experience and made it good enough. Good enough saved the galaxy. The Krellian scientist looked troubled. This goes against everything we know about proper methodology. I know, Hana said. But it worked. A week later, the Galactic Council called a formal session. Commander Quan and his crew were invited to attend. They wore their gray uniforms, which had been cleaned but still showed signs of damage. Battle scars, the council chamber was packed. Representatives from every member species had come to witness this moment. Supreme Chancellor Vrix stood at the podium. For 3,000 years, Vrix announced, the Galactic Council has represented the most advanced civilizations in the known universe. We have faced many challenges, wars, famines, plagues. We have overcome them all through cooperation and advanced technology. He paused. But the Void Rift defeated us. We tried everything we knew. We applied our best science, our greatest minds, our most powerful computers. And we failed. We accepted that some problems could not be solved. Vrix looked at the human delegation. Then humanity arrived. A young species. Barely 400 years into space travel. Using technology that we considered outdated. And they solved what we could not. Ambassador Thelmore approached the podium. Commander Quan, Dr. Hana, Engineer Sung, and the crew of the Dauntless. The Council wishes to understand. We have studied your methods. We have reviewed your data. But we still don't comprehend how you succeeded, Quan stood. He wasn't used to public speaking, but he tried. Honorable Council members, we succeeded because we didn't know it was impossible. Every civilization before us had tried and failed. You all knew the rift couldn't be stopped. That knowledge became a cage. You stopped looking for solutions because you believed none existed. He continued. Humans are new to the galaxy. We don't have thousands of years of history telling us what can't be done. When we see a problem, we don't ask if it's impossible. We ask how we can try. Maybe we'll fail. But maybe, just maybe, we'll succeed. But your methods are crude, protested a council member. You destroy your own ship. You use brute force instead of elegance. You guess instead of calculate. Yes, Sung spoke up. Because crude methods that work are better than elegant methods that fail. The universe doesn't care about elegance. It cares about results, Dr. Hana added her thoughts. The council species are all ancient and wise. You've learned what works and what doesn't. That knowledge is valuable, but sometimes it makes you stop trying new things. Humans are young and foolish. We try things that shouldn't work. Usually they don't, but sometimes they do. The council chamber was quiet as they processed this. Then Supreme Chancellor Vrix did something unexpected. He bowed, a gesture of deep respect in his culture. Humanity has taught us something valuable today, that sometimes the answer to impossible problems is to refuse to accept they are impossible. Commander Quan, Vrix continued, the Council would like to offer you a position. We need someone who thinks differently, someone who doesn't accept our limits. Would you consider joining the Council's Defense Directorate? Quan looked at his crew. They nodded. I would be honored, Quan said, on one condition. My crew comes with me, all of them. We work best together. Agreed. The council session ended with a standing ovation. Aliens applauded in their various ways. Some clapped, some clicked, some hummed, but all of them showed respect. Later, on the observation deck, the crew of the Dauntless gathered to look at the stars. They had saved billions of lives. They had done the impossible. But 3 of their friends weren't there to celebrate with them. To Park, Chen, and Rodriguez, Quan raised a glass. They gave everything so that others could live. To Park, Chen, and Rodriguez, the crew echoed. They stood in silence for a moment, honoring the fallen. Then Sung spoke up. So, what impossible thing do we tackle next? The crew laughed, because that was the human way. One impossible challenge completed, already looking for the next one. Somewhere behind them, the void rift continued to collapse day by day. A testament to human stubbornness, a reminder that impossible just meant nobody had succeeded yet. And across the galaxy, civilizations that had lost hope began to find it again. 5 years had passed since the void rift collapsed. The galaxy had changed in ways nobody expected. Most importantly, it had remembered how to hope. Commander Quan stood on the bridge of the new Dauntless, a ship built by both humans and aliens working together. It was larger than the original, with technology from a dozen different species. But it kept the human philosophy, function over elegance, results over theory. Approaching the Scorpion Nebula, Pilot Tay announced. He was older now, with gray in his hair, but his hands were still steady on the controls. The automated defense network is 20,000 kilometers ahead. Quan studied the tactical display. The defense network had been built by an ancient civilization called the Makers. For 5,000 years it had protected a dead region of space, destroying any ship that came close. The Council had tried to disable it dozens of times. All attempts failed. Now it was humanity's turn to try. Dr. Hana, what's your assessment? Quan asked. Hana looked up from her science station. She was the director of the Unified Research Institute now, but she still joined field missions when they were interesting enough. The network uses quantum entanglement for coordination. Destroy one node and the others adapt instantly. The Council tried overwhelming it with numbers, hacking it, even negotiating with it. Nothing worked. So they gave up. They accepted reality, Hana corrected with a smile. We, of course, are going to ignore reality. In the past 5 years, this had become normal. The galaxy faced a problem, declared it impossible, then called the humans. It was almost routine now. Engineer Sung walked onto the bridge carrying a device that looked like it was built from spare parts. Which it was. I've got something that might work. Remember how we solved the rift? We didn't try to understand it completely. We just needed to understand it enough. I remember nearly dying, Tay said. Good times. Right. So I applied the same thinking here. The defense network is quantum entangled. That makes it unbeatable if you try to fight it normally. But what if we don't fight it? What if we introduce chaos into the quantum field? Make it so confused that it shuts down to recalibrate? Quan raised an eyebrow. Will that work? No idea. But it's never been tried, so it might. Navigator Mira plotted their approach. She was a captain now, commanding her own ship in the fleet, but she had requested to join this mission. If we get this wrong, those defense platforms will turn us into atoms. Then let's not get it wrong, Quan said simply. Sung, deploy your device. The engineer launched his creation toward the nearest defense platform. It was a crude thing, pulsing with uncontrolled energy. The defense network immediately locked onto it, charging weapons. Nothing happened. The platforms flickered. Their perfect quantum coordination shattered for just a moment. Systems struggled to reboot. They're confused, Hana reported, excitement in her voice. The network is trying to figure out what it just detected. It doesn't fit any known threat category. How long will it stay confused? Maybe 30 seconds. Tay, get us through, now. The pilot didn't hesitate. He pushed the engines to maximum and flew straight through the defense network while it was rebooting. Weapons tracked them but didn't fire. They were through in 28 seconds. Behind them, the network came back online. But by then it was too late. "We're in," Mira announced. "The Forbidden Zone." What they found inside changed everything. The makers hadn't built the defense network to keep people out. They built it to keep something in. Inside the nebula was a massive space station, still powered after thousands of years. And inside that station was a library. "This is incredible," Hana whispered as they explored. The makers documented everything. Their entire history, their technology, their mistakes. They spent weeks cataloging the find. The makers had been a great civilization once. They had solved problems the current council species still struggled with. But they had also made terrible mistakes. Wars that destroyed worlds. Technology that went wrong. Eventually, they had sealed their knowledge away, hoping future civilizations would be wiser. The council was amazed and terrified. "This knowledge could be dangerous," Supreme Chancellor Vrick said when they reported back. "Some of these technologies were banned for good reason." "Knowledge isn't dangerous," Quan replied. "Ignorance is. The makers left this library hoping someone would find it and learn from their mistakes. We should honor that." After much debate, the council agreed. The library was open to all species. Researchers from across the galaxy came to study. Humans worked alongside Krellians, Altarians, and dozens of other species. They learned together. Dr. Hana led the research effort. The Unified Research Institute became the center of galactic science. But it wasn't like the old council research centers. Those had been formal and rigid. The institute was chaos. Humans asking what if constantly. Aliens learning to question their assumptions. Together they pushed the boundaries of knowledge. "We've made more progress in 5 years than in the previous century," Hana told Quan during one of his visits. "And it's because we combined human stubbornness with alien wisdom. Neither is enough alone. Together they're unstoppable." Engineer Sung ran training programs now. Multi-species teams learned what he called practical problem solving. It wasn't elegant or theoretical. It was messy and hands-on. Most of the galaxy learned science from books, Sung explained to a class of alien engineers. Humans learned it by breaking things and fixing them. Both approaches have value. Books teach you what's supposed to work. Breaking things teaches you what actually works. A Krellian student raised a tentacle. But surely proper methodology is superior to trial and error. "Is it? Let me ask you something. If your ship is dying and you have 5 minutes to fix it, do you want an engineer who follows proper methodology? Or an engineer who knows 50 different ways to jury-rig a solution?" The student thought about it. "The second one. Exactly. Now let's break some engines and learn how to fix them wrong." Pilot Tay and Navigator Mira commanded exploration missions to regions of space the Council had deemed too dangerous. They went places other species avoided and found wonders. Dead stars that could be revived. Ancient shipwrecks containing lost technology. Habitable worlds that were hidden by natural phenomena. "The galaxy is bigger than anyone knew," Mira reported after one mission. The Council mapped the safe routes and stopped. They never pushed into the dangerous areas. So much was unexplored simply because it was risky. "And now?" asked Quan. "Now we have 50 new colony prospects, 12 archaeological sites, and one very angry space creature that we accidentally woke up. But we apologized, so it's fine." Lieutenant Yuna served as humanity's primary ambassador. She explained human thinking to confused aliens on a daily basis. It was harder than fighting the Void Rift. "Why do humans always ask, why not?" When alien diplomat asked her once. "It's inefficient. Most ideas won't work." "True," Yuna agreed. "But the ones that do work change everything. We ask why not because the cost of trying is small, but the cost of not trying could be huge. But you fail constantly." "Yes. Failure is how we learn. The Council species learn to avoid failure by not attempting difficult things. Humans learn to accept failure as part of the process. Neither approach is wrong, but ours lets us try more things. The galaxy slowly adapted to the human way of thinking. Not completely. Most species still preferred their elegant, theoretical approaches. But they learned to value the human perspective. When faced with impossible problems, they knew who to call. Commander Quan was promoted to Fleet Admiral. He oversaw joint human-alien task forces that tackled the galaxy's biggest challenges: resource shortages, dying stars, Automated weapons from ancient wars, problems that the Council had lived with for centuries, were suddenly solvable. "You've changed the galaxy," Ambassador Thelmore told him during a diplomatic dinner. 5 years ago, we accepted that some problems couldn't be solved. Now nothing is impossible. Everything is still impossible, Quan corrected. We just try anyway, that's what I mean. You've taught us to try. It seems simple, but for species that have existed for thousands of years, it's revolutionary. We became comfortable, set in our ways. You showed us we were wrong. Thelmore's scales rippled in a pattern Quan had learned meant deep respect. I doubted you at the Void Rift. I told you to turn back. I was certain you would fail and die. We almost did. But you didn't. And that made all the difference. The anniversary of the Rift's closure was declared a galactic holiday. Unity Day, they called it. It celebrated not just the closing of the Rift, but the change in thinking it represented. Quan attended the ceremony at the former Rift location. A memorial had been built there, a large crystal structure floating in space with the names of everyone who had died fighting the Rift. The 3 humans from the Dauntless. The researchers from other species who died in earlier attempts, all honored together. His crew stood with him. Hana, Sung, Tai, Mira, Yuna, Inho, Dabin, and all the others who had survived. They were older now. Some had scars. All had memories. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we had turned back? Hana asked quietly. Every day, Quan admitted. But then I remember what we accomplished. Not just closing the rift, but changing how the galaxy thinks. That was worth the risk.